Hello, and thanks so much for watching. A highly anticipated White House visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy ended in a shouting match with President Donald Trump and Vice President Vance. President Trump invited Volodymyr Zelenskyy to sign an economic deal that would have given the U.S. access to rare Ukrainian minerals. But their Oval Office meeting devolved into a heated dispute over the conflict in Ukraine and the possibility of an agreement with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
During the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
The White House says it asked Zelenskyy to leave after the meeting and cancel plans to sign the mineral deal. President Trump spoke with reporters about the exchange while leaving for Mar-a-Lago.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelenskyy, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up a strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war.
And CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins me now with more on this. So, Nancy, at this point in the day, we've all seen the video of those heated moments inside the Oval Office. But was there a turning point, a specific moment that sort of triggered this tension?
I think it was building over the course of the 45 minutes that Zelenskyy was sitting there in the Oval Office with the president, with the vice president, with the Secretary of State and Ukrainian officials. President Trump seemed to mostly want to focus on this minerals deal that he was arguing was going to be great for Ukraine and great for the United States. And Zelenskyy talked about that, but he also talked about wanting to end the wider war in a way that was favorable for Ukraine. And he had a lot of specific things to say about Vladimir Putin, about Putin being a terrorist, about the fact that Putin couldn't be trusted to carry out a deal, and most specifically, Chanel, about the fact that without security guarantees from the United States, it would be very difficult to enforce any peace deal. And that's what really seemed to rub Trump and J.D. Vance, the vice president, in particular, the wrong way, because Trump has said repeatedly that he doesn't want U.S. peacekeepers on the ground in Ukraine, and he thinks that's a job that should be done by European troops. And so at one point, the vice president kicked it off by saying that Zelenskyy was ungrateful and that he hadn't said thank you once, and things just went downhill from there.
All right, let's play more of that exchange inside the Oval Office.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
So, Nancy, this relationship was fraught even before this meeting today. But what happens next?
So a short time ago, as President Trump was leaving the White House to head down to Palm Beach for the weekend, he stopped and talked to reporters gathered on the South Lawn. And I asked him what happens next. Specifically, I asked him what Zelenskyy needs to do now to get these talks back on track. Take a listen to what he had to say.
He's got to say, I want to make peace. He doesn't have to stand there and say about Putin this, Putin that, all negative things. He's got to say, I want to make peace. I don't want to fight a war any longer. His people are dying. He doesn't have the cards, just so you understand it, okay? I can tell you.
President Trump said repeatedly he doesn't have any cards. He doesn't have any cards in response to multiple reporters. He seemed to be frustrated that Zelenskyy was asking for terms in the talks today, as he has publicly in the past. And President Trump seems to believe that the only way to bring about an immediate ceasefire, which is what Trump keeps reinforcing that he wants this to happen immediately, that he doesn't want these talks to drag out, that in order for it to be immediate, Zelenskyy can't be dictating terms. And that's where the real conflict lies right now, because Zelenskyy has argued that that he's not willing to sacrifice things that are important to him and to the Ukrainians just so that they can sign a deal that says that peace is now underway.
And quickly, Nancy, how is Russia reacting to all this?
Well, they have been making light of what happened to Zelenskyy. They called it a slapdown, said it was long deserved, you know, the sort of things that you would expect Russian officials to say. And on the other side, there's been this outpouring of support from European officials saying that they support Zelenskyy. They haven't gone as far as to criticize President Trump. It's a very delicate situation, but they are making their support of Zelenskyy public tonight.
Okay, Nancy Cordes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And now let's bring in CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett. Major, I want to start with playing another back and forth from Trump and Zelensky's meeting earlier today. Let's listen.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days.
So, Major, when we chatted earlier today, you had said to me, this is unprecedented. Explain why.
Because you just don't see conflict between two leaders theoretically aligned in mutual purpose to save the sovereignty of Ukraine, blow up in public at each other again and again and again. And you could feel in the room, even though I wasn't there, you could feel it coming through the television, the emotional energy rising. Even President Trump touching Volodymyr Zelenskyy, pushing him on the shoulder, like sit down or back off. That kind of interaction, that kind of explosive emotional interaction in what is supposed to be not only a diplomatic context, but the prelude to this was supposed to be an agreement between the two countries on economic relations. All of that exploding in full public view, metaphorically, when there is a third party watching intensely. Who is that third party? It's Russia. It's Vladimir Putin. And the sense that the only way that this conflict can end is if Zelenskyy gets right with peace, basically lets the aggressor country, Russia, off the hook. Trust me, Zelenskyy would say for himself, and has on numerous occasions, if the Russians would stop bombing us, firing missiles at our civilians, this war would likely come to an end, and we'd have a conversation about the parts of Ukraine that Russia has illegally, by invading our country, overtaken. The reason Zelenskyy is hesitant about an immediate ceasefire is he doesn't want that ceasefire to essentially say the facts on the ground will never change, and Russia and all the territory it's occupied and occupying remains Russian. He'd like to have some conversation about that. That's why he's reluctant. The Trump administration considers that to be ungrateful and obstructionist, and that's the big divide.
And Major, Trump has left the door open for Zelenskyy to come back and sort of re-engage. But based on what happened today and those tense moments in the Oval Office, how might that inform Zelenskyy's approach when he comes back to the U.S. and goes back to Washington, D.C.?
Well, one of the things that was unusual, Chanel, about this is an American president telling an allied country, or at least a theoretically allied country, you have very few cards to play, you're weak, you basically have to do what I'm telling you, and I'm going to tell you what you got to do in full public view, sort of ramming that down Zelenskyy's throat. The simple truth is, diplomatically and from a policy perspective, Zelenskyy doesn't have a lot of options. He wants and needs this economic agreement with the United States because that would, in many respects, create a bond. It may not be military, but it would be economic, and the military bonding would be implied because President Trump has said many times, if we have this agreement, the Russians aren't going to attack Ukraine anymore because we're going to be there, and Russia will respect that. Whether that's true or not, Trump believes that. So Zelenskyy needs this agreement more than President Trump does, and he needs to come back. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has said very clearly, and Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, has said very clearly, Zelenskyy needs to apologize and come back with a much more cooperative attitude, defined by the Trump administration, not by Zelenskyy. We'll see if that happens.
All right, Major Garrett, thank you.